So, like, if we take kids that work out here, okay, it's the perfect scenario.
Yeah.
You have a great trainer in a facility with ice next door, right, attached to the building. A professional skills coach, a training program that's second to none. So we know that based on our results, they can come in here and I know that they can go with anywhere. And if someone was training from Toronto, from Ottawa, from BC, from California, from Sweden, that our kids are going to be in that realm of top shape, guys, because we work on the conditioning, we work on the strength, we work on the gas tank, we work on the mobility, we work on the speed, we work on the eccentrics, the concentrics, and the like everything that you can do, everything's taken care of, the mobility, everything. So we know that part. So we know that when we go in there, so far our kids have been more or less injury free, the ones that you can right. So this is all good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's good. You go on the ice and you got someone like myself with the best players around, and we're breaking things down for you in your thing. So that's good. This is really good stuff. Is it enough? And this is where I say it's not, because this is what I call your minimum. So what else would you do besides working out, going for a run, and getting on your skills? Shooting pucks. Like, what else? What are you talking about, coach? And this is what I mean. If you just rely on your trainer or your coach to tell you how you should feel or what you should feel or how you should work out, then you're missing the boat, because you should have something inside you that you're dialed in enough that you truly want to cover all the bases, and you know your body more than anybody else does. Or you might know what you're lacking, or you might know what you're missing. So there's other things that you can do, and it's not more skills. It's when you're alone.
Right.
Okay. So this is my point here. So you got the 16 to 22-year-old window that we're talking about here. This is your time. Like, you get one shot at this. You don't get to fail the business and start over. You don't get to fail a class and start over the next year. You've got, like, you can do that in other fields, right? You can get fired and start somewhere else. But if being the hockey player is what you want to do, you've got one shot only. I'm not saying it's 1 day or 1 year, but you have a period of time where you need to get it right, because it closes really, really fast. So do you want to leave your future or your career only in someone else's hands? Like, if you're my trainer, I only listen to Eric, and whatever Eric says is what I do, and I don't do anything else. Well, how do you know how I feel when I'm doing a start or a shot, or if I'm telling a kid, like, I want you to do this, but he's sitting there going, okay, I got to do it this way, and never question it or never try something on his own, or take that skill and apply it outside of this domain, right? So, like, if you do a skills session, let's say, like, it's real simple, we're working on shooting, okay, and we're working on a particular shot. Do you leave that session and say, okay, well, the next session, I wonder what we're going to be doing? Or are you that dialed in to say, okay, I think I got this, but I want to master it, and I'm going to go home and I'm going to do it some more, and I'm going to make sure it's perfect? That's a little bit more dialed in, right? It's like, maybe at the end of a workout here, you feel like, okay, yeah, we did some mobility, but I feel like I need to be a little bit more mobile. So why can't I just take that extra stretching part or the dynamic part and just do it on my own? And that's what I'm talking about, is that you know your body, and you know maybe what you need more than anything else, and don't just leave it in someone else's hand, because, hey, dude, you have one shot.
Yeah.
You have one shot.
And
so go ahead.
I think you should know, like you said, like, you know your body, but I think a lot of kids don't. I think they don't pay attention to it. And I think that's kind of the point too. It's like, you should know, you should take some control over your own development, because exactly what you said, it's like, if you're leaving it up to your coach or your trainer, like, my time is divided, right? I have groups of 10 guys in here at a time, and I can't just focus on Jerv or Jeff or whoever is in here, because I have all of you. It's like being in a classroom. Like, the teacher can't give you all the attention, so you need to make up that difference. You need to make up that difference for yourself the best you can. And this is kind of what you're talking about things being the bare minimum. Like for the mobility example, going back to that, like you said, you see guys half-assing the third movement, and it's like, I am here watching you, and you're not even dialing into it. So what are you doing if you're when you're not here? And this is what I'm talking. I think kind of what your point is too,
No,
right?
that's exactly my point. And my point to which I think what you're saying too is like the connection of the importance of like you as a trainer is it's we're not just doing the runner's lunge just so we do a runner's lunge. We're doing it for loosening up the hips of the thoracic spine, all that stuff for a reason, and it's important. So.
Yeah. Well, the last part too is like it's not about one specific thing. Like I know you're giving some specific examples, but it's not about the one specific thing. It's about the mentality of taking some ownership over your own development. And that's the transition that should be happening from that 16 to 22 area, right? That's kind of where that once you're when you're 14, 15, you should be starting to get some of that. But from 16 to 22, it's like this is where you need to take ownership of your own development because the people that are helping you, unless you're paying somebody $20,000 where it's super individualized and they babysit you and you live there, and it's like I don't know if Gary Roberts does something like that where you literally like live on campus
Yeah,
and train
kind of.
there,
Yeah, you
that
eat
kind of
the
idea,
food.
right?
Yeah, you're there
Unless
all
it's
day or
something like
something.
that where someone is literally spoon feeding you the whole time, there's too much time for you to mess things up. There's too much time for you to get not dialed in. And I know I wanted to get into that idea of the 10,000 hours thing because people use that as a marker of being an expert, right? You hit 10,000 hours, that's when you're considered an expert. Let's say that's the number. I don't know if that's the number or not, but let's say that's the number. If you hit 10,000 hours of quality practice, then you're going to be an expert. If that's actually the number, we could do the math. We did this yesterday. If we could do the math on how many hours you're actually spending and how long it would take you to get to that 10,000. Oh, I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to get a
I
calculator
think
up.
we said it would take 15 years.
Yeah, it would take 15 years. So if you have like let's right now our guys, so let's say they do their 4 workouts, so that's an hour and a half each, and then they do 2 skates, that's another hour and a half each, and then they do whatever if they do the track or they do whatever on the Saturday. You're talking about 10, 12 hours, 13 hours a week, right? If you divide that into the year and see how long it takes to get to 10,000, it's almost 15 years.
Yeah, and that's provided you're doing
Quality.
quality work,
So
not just doing stuff.
if it takes you 15 years, that's you're not going to make it. Like that takes too long.
Well, that's why I'm
So-
saying that's why if you come to a skill session and you say like we're working on a shot, you can 10 times that by going home and visualizing and doing stuff, thinking about it, and working on
Right.
that skill again.
And-
It doesn't
and-
have to be for hours. It just has to be concentrated effort.
Right. And this is I wanted to get into this too because we were talking about this yesterday. It's like I know and I know you know, but I know I'm fresh out of playing hockey. I know what it feels like to go into a session and not have a purpose when you're at that training session. I know what that feels like. And I also know what it feels like to go to a session where you have a specific focus. And I know how much better it feels walking out of that session with a feeling of accomplishment because you worked on the thing you needed to work on, you know? And I found that when I go train at the jiu-jitsu gym, I found that to be exactly what happens. If I show up there and I don't have purpose to what I'm doing, I just get mauled and I walk out feeling like I had a shitty session. But if I take 10 minutes, if I take 20 minutes before I go there and just say, okay, like here's a couple things I need to work on, these are a couple things I'm weak at, and no matter what the trainer gives me to work on, because for those sessions it's like an hour of drilling and then we roll at the end, no matter what we work on in that training session, it doesn't matter. I don't need to know that in advance because I can focus on what he's telling me while also having a backdoor focus of what I know I need to work on. So we took this to the hockey example yesterday. We're talking about if you need a shot that you need to work on or a specific move you need to work on, you're going to be able to do it at some point during that session within those drills that Coach Andy writes out for you. So are you taking that 10 minutes before you leave to go to the skate or 20 minutes to gather your thoughts to have an actual focus when you go there? Because that session is 10x. It's like orders of magnitude more beneficial to you if you just have a specific thing you want to work on. Because what if like there's a move you're showing that you just can't pick up the first day, you know, and you walk out and you're just like, man, like I really could not figure that out. Well, at least you worked out on this other stuff that you knew you had to work on and got better in that sense, you know? And so it's really, really important that that's a really good practice that you can do as a player or whatever, helping your kid do it if they're younger. It's like, what are we working on today? And I know you used to talk about doing that with Charlie. It's like, what are you working on at practice
Yeah,
today? You
like,
know,
there's when you're young, you got to learn these things too, right? You got to learn that stuff. But it's like, and it might sound overboard, but like, hey, man, like, do you everyone says they want it, but do they really? That's the question. Like, okay, so like when you go to a session on the ice, whether it's a scrimmage or a practice or a power skating thing, whatever it is that you do, you have to set your own intentions because you don't know what I actually need, or you don't know what the coach that I play for really is barking at me. Or maybe you do, but it's like,
there's
so,
12 guys on
but
the
yeah,
ice.
there's the
Yeah.
12 guys on the ice and we're doing a stick handling drill, but I can still work every time I start. I can still work on my one thing I want to work on is my quick starts. So every time you start a drill, that could be taken care of like with an intense focus. You change the direction, quick start. Then it could be shooting. What purpose do you have for shooting? Are you just, and this is when you watch a practice, you guys shoot and they miss the net and it's a
Falling
shot
off
without
inside foot. Yeah.
real purpose and stuff like that. It's like, okay, so if that was dialed in, then if you had just a random 50 shots in the practice, then you're actually working on it. So it makes a big difference. So